Part 1.
You will hear a man phoning a London tour agency to ask about tours around London. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5.
Hi, London Premier Tours. How can I help?
Hi, I'm coming to London with my family and we'd like to see the city. We just wanted some information on the best way to do this.
Okay, I'll see if I can help. Firstly, when are you coming and for how long?
Let me see, we're leaving the US at the end of June. We're going to stay with friends in Oxford for a week, so we'll arrive in London around the 10th of July. It will just be for a few days as we fly to Paris on the 13th of July.
And how many people?
I'm coming with my sister and our parents.
And do you know what kind of things you want to see when you are here? Is there anything in particular?
Not really. We just want to see the main sights, Historical places, I guess. The places that London is famous for.
Well, as you only have a short amount of time, the best way to do that is probably by a bus tour. The tour costs £29 for adults and £14 for children for the day.
What time does it start?
Well, basically the ticket is valid for the whole day. The first bus is at 7 a.m., but buses depart every 20 minutes throughout the day up until 4 p.m. 6 p.m. It's summer now, so the buses run later. So you can start and finish whenever you want within those times.
So do you have to stay on the same bus the whole time?
No, it's a hop-on, hop-off service, so you can get off at whichever stop you like. You can then stay there as long as you like and then get back on another bus when it arrives.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10.
What sights do you see on the tour then?
That depends on which route you choose. There are 3 routes, and we call them the red, yellow, and blue routes. There are many attractions, but the main attractions on the red route are St. Paul's Cathedral, the London Eye, and Buckingham Palace.
I'm not too worried about the cathedral, but I know my parents would enjoy the London Eye, so we'd better see that. What about the other routes?
The most famous places on the yellow route are Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament.
Ah, both of those would be interesting to see. And the blue route?
Harrods and Hyde Park Corner are on that route.
I'd like to see Harrods, but I don't think we'll have time for shopping, and I don't know Hyde Park, so we'll not go on that route. So we'd probably choose the red or yellow. What do we have to do about booking?
If you want to book, you can do that with one of our customer service operators on the phone. Or otherwise, you can go to our website and book. Some people just arrive on the day and buy a ticket on the bus. But if it's full, you may not be able to get a seat.
Probably best if we book in advance then, so I'll do it on the internet in a few weeks when we know exactly what dates we'll be there.
Okay. Well, it can get very busy in the summer over the 3 months of June to August. So it's probably best to book at least a week before you come. But you still have about 6 weeks before you leave, so you have plenty of time to think about it.
Okay, thanks. You've been a great help.
That is the end of Part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear two students, Sarah and John, discussing their choices of courses to study. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Hi, John.
Hello, Sarah. What are you doing in here? Haven't all your exams finished?
Well, yes, they have. But I've got to make my decisions for next year. I still haven't chosen what courses I'm going to do.
That's why I'm here. Why don't we have a look through the brochure together?
That's a good idea. I'm not sure about some of these courses on medieval history.
No. In fact, I'm not sure about the whole second year. I was talking to Peter Lilly the other day. You know, he's just finished the second year, and he was saying that the workload is higher in the second year because you have to read all these medieval documents in Latin. I mean, the first year's been pretty hard, but next year will be worse. There are more assignments in the second year. It goes up to 6 a year for each course, doesn't it?
Yes, but we've got the experience of the first year to build on, so it must get easier. And there isn't so much secondary material in the second year. There aren't so many books about the medieval period.
Don't you believe it. I think this year's going to be hard work.
Well, perhaps I'd better give up my job then.
You're working as well.
Yeah, I've been working in the same place for over a year now. Only part-time, you know, just Saturday mornings in the market. I mean, it doesn't pay much, but it's interesting, and it gives me a bit of extra cash for my textbooks. Anyway, what about these courses? How many do we have to take? I remember Professor Bolt saying something about 4 courses in the second year. Is that right? Or do we have to do a certain number of credits?
Both. We have to select 4 courses, but for some courses there are 2 parts. They count as one course. It's 6 in total because everyone has to do Europe, 1100 to 1500, and Chronicles of the Church. Anyway, when you've chosen your 4 courses, they should add up to 80 credits. Have you got the course brochure there?
Yes. Look, under second year history. There it is.
You now have some time to read questions 16 to 20.
Right. Yes, look. Most of these courses are 20 credits each, except for the 2 short courses about the Crusades. They're 10 each. Now, medieval society. What do you think?
Well, actually, I think it looks really good. Dr. Smith is okay. And you don't have to buy any books except a study pack. The best thing is there are no special requirements. No Latin or medieval English.
The next one is Development of Technology with Mr. Mills. Ah, this is a good one. Peter recommended it. It's all about the way printing developed and early science. In fact, I think I could get a copy of Bouchier's History of Science from him. That means I wouldn't have to buy it.
That does look interesting. And that doesn't have any special requirements either. What's next? Ah, here they are. 10 credits each, the Crusades. You need French to do them. I suppose a lot of the documents are in French.
That's strange, look. There are different teachers for each part. I expect that's why it's 2 modules. Dr. Clare does the first part, but it's Dr. Shaker and Professor Lord for the second one.
So that only leaves Peasants and Kings with Dr. Reeves. Oh, look! You have to know French for this one.
Well, I must say I don't fancy any course that asks you to have Latin, but I think my French is good enough to read original sources.
Yes, mine too. Well, what shall we choose?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3. Part 3.
First, you have some time to look at questions.
Hi. Okay, so you're John and Sarah, I'm Neil, and you're having some problems with a project you're doing on the marketing module of the Business Studies course. Is that right?
Yes, it's the one where we have to read the case studies of 6 businesses and assess their marketing and identify the main problems each one had.
So what exactly is the problem?
Well, we've been doing quite a lot of reading for it. Some of the readings we've looked at are quite difficult, but we still understand them and they're interesting, so that's okay. It's taking a lot longer than we thought though, so we're wondering if we can have an extension. We have a lot of other assignments too.
Well, extensions can be granted. However, it sounds like you're having issues with the planning of your time. Neither of you are sick or have had an accident, which are the only reasons that extensions are usually granted. The university's scheduling of deadline dates is organised so you can complete things on time.
Okay, we understand. We thought that would probably be the case.
Well, let's see how you're doing with it. So you were given readings on 6 different companies. You needed to examine the main weaknesses of each company with regard to their marketing strategy. What did you find out about each company?
Let's start with Stack Stationery. They were very experienced in marketing, as they have been in the stationery market for such a long time. Their profits have generally tended to increase continuously for many years. However, they had issues with their staff because they felt that too much money was being spent on marketing, but their wages did not increase for such a long time.
Princeton Windows were quite successful initially, as their marketing led to an increase in sales of 50%. However, this decreased again after a few months, so it just led to profits for a short time. They need to think about how they can sustain any increase in profit for longer periods.
MK Cars focused on the wrong thing, because they didn't really understand who their target market was. Most of their buyers of cars are young people, but they advertised in newspapers that older people usually read. It would have been better to go for magazines popular with the younger generation. You must learn everything you can about who you are selling to.
Lakeside Golf was probably the most successful of the 6 companies. They managed to generate a long-term increase in membership over a 3-year period. The only real issue they had was that they weren't ready for the increase in numbers of people coming to play golf. So some people started to complain about the service there.
Bryson's Meat seemed to be a bit of a disaster really all round. They actually saw a drop in their numbers of buyers, though it seems fairly sure that this was related to other problems outside of the company, rather than their marketing. There was a scare about meat during the period we are studying, and that meant that people bought less. So it may not actually be the company's fault.
Mojo's Music Shop, which sells CDs and DVDs, did pretty well. Their sales have been continuously increasing, and this is very good as they are in a very difficult market. A lot of people aren't buying music from shops anymore as they download it instead. So to keep going in that situation shows that they had a very successful marketing campaign. They will have to work hard on this though, due to the number of websites online providing the same service.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions.
Well, from listening to what you've told me, it seems like you have a fairly good understanding. For the assignment, you also have to say what you think will happen in the future. Let's choose Mojo's Music Shop. What about you, Sarah?
The company was established many years ago, and I'm fairly confident that this company can continue to be successful. As I said, they have shown that they have survived in a very competitive market. They had a very strong advertising campaign, and they seem very good at knowing where the market is going and how to change. What about you, John?
Well, I'm not so sure actually. There are just so few music shops that manage to survive these days. I do agree that they have been very innovative, but too many people want to buy things online, as it is so much easier and usually cheaper. Most young people don't even have DVD players these days and just listen to things on their phones. So I think eventually they will cease operating like most others.
That's two very different opinions. It's been said that they have a very good management team, but I'm not sure I agree with that, as they're a bit inexperienced. I would disagree with you, Sarah, and say actually that their advertising campaign, although good, needs to be improved and more original in order to keep sales high. As John says, it's such a competitive market, they need to do everything.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a lecturer give a talk on nutrition. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Now, the topic of today's talk is nutrition, specifically vitamins and minerals. I'll be dealing first with some of the most common misconceptions about them. Then I'm going to talk about what vitamins there are, where they come from, and the quantities we need. We'll have some time at the end of the talk for any questions you may have. Okay, well, vitamins are known to the general public. In fact, the public knows more about them than it does about certain other key aspects of nutrition. One reason for this is that vitamins have been in the public eye for quite a while, at least since the middle of the 20th century, when their importance first became widely recognized. This awareness does mean that the public knows how important vitamins are, even if it doesn't mean that we all eat a healthy diet all the time. However, a problem does arise that is associated with this, which is the number of old wives' tales about vitamins. Usually these fallacies are not dangerous, but they do lead to an unnecessarily high intake of vitamin supplements. For example, it is widely held that high doses of vitamin C will cure colds and flu. I'd like to hit this one on the head. There is no evidence that any vitamin can cure anything. No, I'm afraid you'll just have to let time sort out your cold. And of course, the body can't store vitamin C, so those tablets you take are just an expensive waste of time. Another common belief with no evidence is the idea that vitamin A helps you see in the dark. Actually, there is some truth in this one, because vitamin A is necessary for good vision. But in the dark, in real darkness, nobody can see. And of course, taking too much vitamin A can actually be bad for you. But perhaps the most misleading idea, heavily promoted by certain companies, is that vitamins will make you intelligent. Now, while a healthy diet is essential if you are to make the most of your intelligence, there is no evidence whatsoever that vitamin supplements can make the slightest bit of difference. So what can vitamins do? Or perhaps more accurately, why do we need them? Well, the answer is that we need them for all sorts of reasons. Vitamin A, for example, also called retinol, is essential for good eyesight, especially at night, and to help us fight off infection and illness. We get it from liver, butter, egg yolks, and milk. Vitamin D, as is well known, is used to build strong teeth and bones, but it also helps us absorb calcium. Vitamin D is mainly formed in the skin through the action of sunlight. How much you need depends on different factors such as age and health. Vitamin E, tocopherol, is less well known, but is necessary in maintaining a healthy balance of fats in the body. We need 10 to 12 milligrams every day, and although some people take supplements, you can normally get what you need from a balanced diet. The B complex includes vitamins B1, thiamine, B2, riboflavin, B6, pyridoxine, and B12, cyanocobalamin. It performs many functions, including allowing our bodies to metabolize carbohydrates, forming healthy tissue, and perhaps most importantly, forming red blood cells to prevent pernicious anemia. We need varying amounts of the B complex, and while most of us can get enough from a well-balanced diet, vegetarians may find themselves deficient in B12, which is only found in any noticeable quantity in meat, especially liver. Finally, vitamin C is the one everyone knows. Ascorbic acid, as it's also known, helps fight infection, which perhaps accounts for the myth about preventing colds. It also helps protect against scurvy. We need 30 milligrams a day and can only really get this amount from eating plenty of citrus fruit and fresh vegetables. Now, in a moment I'll be moving on to talk about how we can plan a diet which will supply all our vitamin needs. But before that, I'd like to look at some of the recent advances in our knowledge of the ways vitamin deficiencies can affect us.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.